Billionaire's pregnant wife finds lipstick on his shirt. She files for divorce without hesitation. Mistress shocked. Rachel Delgado once believed she had it all, a loving millionaire husband, a baby on the way, and a beautiful home in the heart of New York City's Upper East Side. Yet one fateful night, she stumbled upon a vivid red lipstick stain on Marcus Delgado's pristine white dress shirt, an undeniable symbol of betrayal. Shock twisted into heartbreak in a single breath, and she knew life would never be the same. Without a moment's hesitation, Rachel resolved to walk away from the marriage that had once been her fairy tale. What follows is a tumultuous, high-stakes tale of deception, courage, and unexpected twists. Rachel Delgado pressed a slender hand to her belly, savoring the gentle flutter of life growing within. She was almost 4 months pregnant, and her excitement at becoming a mother was the shining thread that ran through her thoughts night and day. Marcus Delgado, her husband of 2 years, was busy across the apartment, preparing for a late-night business meeting. Despite the hour, Rachel could hear the soft clicks of his polished shoes on the marble floors. They lived in a sprawling penthouse overlooking Central Park, an ode to Marcus's meteoric rise from an ambitious start-up entrepreneur to a real estate mogul. The decor boasted a mix of avant-garde art pieces and meticulously curated furniture from Italy. Rachel, who had always prided herself on being grounded, despite the luxurious surroundings, felt dizzy with gratitude whenever she paused to reflect on their life together. She recalled how they first met at an art auction in Soho. Rachel, working for a non-profit that promoted local artists, had been trying to secure funding for an emerging painter. Marcus, evidently charmed by Rachel's passion for the arts, had placed a generous bid on a piece she recommended. Their chemistry was electric, and from that evening on, their bond only deepened. Within a year, he proposed to her beneath the cherry blossom trees in Brooklyn Botanic Garden. As she fussed with a loose thread on her cardigan, Rachel glimpsed Marcus stepping out of the walk-in closet, wearing a crisp white dress shirt and a navy blazer. He looked every inch the confident millionaire, with his sleek, dark hair and a watch that gleamed in the subdued lamplight. Approaching her, he placed a tender hand on her belly. "I'll be back by midnight," he murmured, pressing a light kiss to her forehead. Rachel smiled, brushing away a nagging sense of unease that occasionally surfaced whenever Marcus had these late meetings. Over the past few months, he seemed more distant, enveloped in a haze of phone calls and hush-hush deals. But she reminded herself that he was providing for their growing family. His business expansions, though time-consuming, were ultimately for their benefit, or so she told herself. Marcus grabbed his phone and keys. "Don't wait up," he said gently. The door closed behind him, and Rachel was left with her own thoughts. The faint hum of the air conditioner filled the silence of the penthouse. Strolling to the bedroom window, she let her gaze wander over the city's glittering skyline. She could see the iconic spires of Manhattan, witness to countless dreams, both broken and fulfilled. Something about that view always reminded her of how quickly fortunes and fates could change in a city like New York. She placed a protective hand over her abdomen, silently praying that her marriage and the future of her unborn child wouldn't be among those tragic tales. In this moment, Rachel had no inkling of the betrayal she would soon uncover, or how that single, damning evidence on a shirt collar would unravel the life she believed was perfect. Days passed uneventfully, with Marcus alternating between business lunches, lavish galas, and property site visits. Rachel tried to be supportive, offering her presence at key social gatherings. She was well aware that image could make or break a business deal in Marcus's world. Her refined charm and warm smile had often won over potential investors who admired not just Marcus's acumen, but also the graceful, charitable woman by his side. Yet beneath the glitter, a sense of unease took hold. Rachel couldn't ignore the subtle changes in Marcus's behavior. He seemed on edge, answering calls in hushed tones and stepping out of earshot whenever his phone buzzed. She tried to dismiss her suspicions as paranoia. After all, pregnancy hormones had a notorious reputation for amplifying anxiety, but the knot in her stomach only tightened with each passing day. It was a Tuesday afternoon when she decided to meet an old friend, Grace Caldwell, for coffee at the Plaza Hotel. Grace, once a fellow volunteer in the local art scene, had become a close confidant. Settled in a plush booth with velvet upholstery, the two women shared updates about work, marriage, and the challenges of city life. Rachel found herself confessing her apprehensions. "He's more distant than usual, Grace. I know he's busy, but there's something else. He's always shutting off his phone when I walk into the room or stepping away to take calls in private." Grace frowned sympathetically. "Have you tried asking him directly?" "Yes, but he just says it's sensitive business stuff or client confidentiality." Rachel toyed with her teacup, swirling the contents absently. "I don't want to accuse him of anything. Maybe I'm overreacting." Grace reached out to squeeze Rachel's hand. "It's natural to feel more vulnerable right now, especially with a baby on the way. Just promise me you'll listen to your instincts." Rachel nodded, though the conversation only fueled the unease. Later that night, she mustered the courage to gently probe Marcus about his schedule, asking why his hours had grown erratic. He offered a practiced smile. "These real estate deals are time-sensitive, especially with the economy in flux," he explained. "Opportunities pop up fast, and I have to move quickly." He stroked her cheek, adopting a softer tone. "I promise, once we lock in these contracts, things will calm down and I'll spend more time at home with you and the baby." She wanted to believe him, wanted to think that the flicker of dread in her heart was just an overblown reaction, but the next few days did little to quell her worries. Marcus's phone pinged with messages at odd hours. His suit smelled faintly of a perfume that wasn't hers, and more than once she caught him texting someone late into the night, hidden from her sight. A storm was brewing in her mind. She could sense it, like thunder rumbling faintly in the distance. All that was needed was a catalyst, a flash of lightning to bring everything crashing down. It happened on a stormy Wednesday evening. Thunder rattled the windows, and rain pelted the glass in steady torrents, setting a tense backdrop for the discovery that would shatter Rachel's world. Marcus had rushed out that morning for a breakfast meeting at the Waldorf Astoria. By late evening, he still hadn't returned or even sent a reassuring text. Rachel, battling insomnia, found herself pacing the living room floor. Her back ached, a common pregnancy complaint, and she decided to pass the time by tidying up. She stepped into the laundry room to collect the hamper of clothes Marcus had carelessly piled. Sorting through his shirts and trousers, Rachel paused when she noticed a faint red stain on the collar of one of his freshly worn white dress shirts. Heart pounding, she lifted the shirt closer to the overhead light. The stain was unmistakably lipstick, a bold, deep crimson that Rachel herself never wore. Immediately her stomach churned, and she felt as though the floor had dropped beneath her feet. Her mind raced with possibilities, but none of them offered a harmless explanation. She took a shaky breath, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. Could it be an accident from a friend's cheek kiss? A smudge from a dinner napkin? The rational part of her mind insisted on plausible deniability, but the intensity of the color and the precise placement on the collar told her otherwise. This was no incidental mark. When Marcus finally walked through the door past midnight, drenched from the downpour, Rachel stood in the foyer waiting, the incriminating shirt clenched in her trembling hands. The expression on his face morphed from fatigue to alarm as he spotted the evidence. "Care to explain this?" she demanded, voice trembling but steeled by anger and hurt. Marcus's eyes flickered with panic. Rack, it's not what you think, he stammered. He reached for her, but she jerked away. Then what is it, she pressed, tears edging her words. Tell me there's some innocent explanation. He opened and closed his mouth, words failing him. Lightning illuminated the penthouse's windows, followed by a thunderous crack. The silence that ensued was almost deafening. Rachel's heart pounded so violently she feared she might collapse. She pressed a hand against her belly, as though to shield her unborn child from the corrosive tension filling the room. It must have come from a colleague, Marcus finally managed, his tone unconvincing. Someone at the meeting gave me a friendly hug. Rachel erupted in a choked sob, slamming the shirt to the floor. Stop lying, she hissed, voice thick with betrayal. Do you think I'm stupid, Marcus? You've been hiding things from me for weeks. He reached for her again, desperation twisting his features. Rachel, calm down. You know stress isn't good for the baby. She froze, glaring at him with tear-filled eyes. Don't you dare bring the baby into this. I've tried to be patient, but I can't ignore this anymore. I trusted you. You've broken that trust, and I will not forgive it. In the piercing silence that followed, the chasm between them felt insurmountable. Chapter 4, Gathering the Shards extended version. In the wake of her shocking discovery, Rachel found herself adrift in a tumult of emotions, as though she were floating between anger, heartbreak, and disbelief with no steady ground in sight. She spent that first, sleepless night hidden away in the penthouse's guest bedroom, a space that felt less tainted by the memories of her marriage. Although the large windows offered sweeping views of a glittering Manhattan, Rachel's tears blurred everything, reducing the skyline's brilliance into a haze of neon and sorrow. Sitting on the bed, an opulent piece of furniture she had once selected, with such joy she found it impossible to sleep. She clutched a throw pillow to her chest, replaying the previous hours in her mind, the damning lipstick stain on Marcus's shirt, his stuttering denial, and the confusion that descended as he attempted to justify the unjustifiable. Whenever she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of the life they had built, her wedding dress trailing across the penthouse floor, his gentle touch on her belly, the night she told him she was pregnant, and felt these images shatter like crystal tumbling off a high shelf. When dawn finally broke, the storm clouds that had hovered over New York City dissipated, leaving the sky clear and bright. This abrupt return to sunlight felt like a cruel contrast to the darkness enveloping Rachel's heart. Heavy-eyed, she emerged from the guest room, physically worn but buoyed by an undercurrent of determination. The once grand living area, with its marble floors and imported artworks, now felt cold and hollow, more like a museum of broken promises than a home. She didn't have to look far to find Marcus. He was slumped on the living room sofa, dressed in the same clothes as the day before, his eyes ringed with exhaustion. An untouched mug of coffee waited on the side table, no steam, no warmth. The sharp scent of stale espresso mingled in the air, reminding Rachel of all the late-night brainstorming sessions they used to share, planning everything from vacations to the baby's nursery. But those memories felt distant now. Marcus stood the moment he saw her, a flurry of remorse in his gaze. "Rach," he started, his voice strained. "We need to talk." Rachel didn't speak immediately. She walked slowly to a matching armchair, lowered herself, and exhaled in a way that seemed to deflate her entire frame. Her throat felt raw from hours of silent sobbing. She braced herself for whatever he might say, pushing aside the fleeting pang of pity she felt at his disheveled appearance. In that moment, pity seemed like a betrayal of the anger coursing through her veins. He cleared his throat, eyes flicking to the table as though searching for a script. "I messed up," Marcus said at last, his words coming out haltingly. Each syllable hung in the air, weighted by shame. I won't insult you by lying about it again. I was tempted, and I gave in." It was a stupid, reckless mistake. Rachel's heart twisted painfully. Somehow, hearing him acknowledge the affair, giving it voice, made it feel even more real. Her anger rose like a tide. "A mistake?" she repeated, her voice quivering. "Knocking over a glass is a mistake. Missing an appointment is a mistake. But betraying your pregnant wife?" Her eyes welled, tears she refused to let fall. "That isn't a mistake, Marcus. It's a choice, a deliberate one." He looked as if he'd been slapped. In the harsh morning light, he seemed smaller, his tailored shirt wrinkled, his face etched with regret. "I love you," he whispered, stepping closer, hands trembling, as though he was unsure whether to reach out for her. "I love you, and I love our baby. I know I've hurt you, hurt us beyond measure. But I'm begging you, please don't throw everything away." Rachel inhaled sharply, pressing her palm to her abdomen. Even in this tumultuous moment, her first concern remained the life growing inside her. She felt a gentle flutter, and that slight motion only hardened her resolve. "You destroyed what we had," she said, each word clipped. "I can't trust you anymore. And trust is everything. How can I raise our child in a house where betrayal is lurking around every corner?" Marcus ran a hand through his hair, tearful and desperate. "We can fix this. We'll go to counseling. I'll do anything to prove I can be the man you need me to be." His desperation might have moved her once, before the lipstick on his collar, before the half-truths and hush-hush late-night calls. Now all it did was stoke the embers of her hurt. Slowly she rose from the chair, mindful of the sudden dizziness that often came with her pregnancy. She held on to the armrest until the room steadied. "I don't want to hear your promises, Marcus," she said, her voice turning cold. "I already know what I have to do." A flicker of dread passed over his face, as if he sensed what was coming but refused to believe it. "Rachel, please. I love you. Don't make any rash decisions." She almost laughed, a brittle sound echoing in the quiet penthouse. "Rash decisions? This is the clearest I've felt in weeks. I've been ignoring my gut, convincing myself it was just my hormones making me paranoid. But last night proved every doubt was real. Tears threatened again, but she blinked them away. "I won't let our child grow up in a marriage built on lies. I'm filing for divorce." The finality of her words hung between them. Marcus's face contorted with panic. He reached for her, but she stepped back. Even now, she felt a surge of protective instinct, a need to shield herself and her unborn baby from further harm. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the city's muffled clamour from the streets below. "Divorce," he echoed hollowly. "Rachel, please don't do this. Let's talk about counselling. Let's try. Don't throw away everything we've built." His pleadings were reminiscent of an earlier time in their relationship, when he'd charm her out of any argument, promising that things would turn out all right. But those illusions had shattered under the harsh light of betrayal. She gazed at the man who had once felt like her entire world, her confidant, her partner, the future father of her child, and felt only a raw ache where her devotion used to be. "You made that choice for us the moment you let someone else into our marriage," Rachel said, quietly, her resolve unwavering. "I'm going to protect my baby and myself, no matter what it takes." Marcus seemed at a loss for words, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly. At last he sank onto the sofa, dropping his head into his hands as though he could block out the reality unraveling before him. For a lingering minute, Rachel observed him, this strong, confident man, who built an empire now reduced to a figure of regret. She realized that she pitied him, but that pity no longer softened her stance. Her anger, her heartbreak, her sense of betrayal, they all demanded that she move forward on her own terms. "I'll stay in the guest room until I figure out my next steps," she announced, her voice trembling only slightly. "Don't expect anything more from me, and don't try to talk me out of it." As she walked away, her footsteps echoed in the penthouse hallway, a slow, resolute sound. She shut herself back in the guest bedroom, sliding down to the carpet and letting the tears flow freely. This time, however, there was a grim kind of certainty in her sobs. Her future would look vastly different from the one she had imagined, but it would be hers to shape free from deceit. In that moment, Rachel knew their marriage was done. The foundation they had built, so outwardly strong, had crumbled under the weight of lies. Now, all that remained was to gather the fragments of her life, protect the baby she carried, and file for the divorce she had never imagined she would need. As the day wore on, she lay curled on that unfamiliar bed, her hand resting on her growing belly, silently vowing that she would never let betrayal define her child's future or her own. A mix of dread and determination gripped Rachel as she stepped out of the taxi in Midtown Manhattan. A crisp wind rustled her coat, and her pregnant belly was more pronounced than ever. She wrapped her arms around herself, steeling her resolve before pushing open the glass door to Walters and Green law firm, the place where she would formally begin the process of ending her marriage. Inside, the space exuded an air of quiet sophistication, sleek furniture, soft lighting, and artwork that hinted at wealth and privilege. Rachel approached the reception desk, nervously clearing her throat. "I have an appointment with James Walters," she murmured. Within moments, a friendly paralegal escorted her into a spacious corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan's skyline. James Walters himself, a tall, silver-haired man with a gentle demeanor, greeted her, gesturing toward a comfortable chair. She sank into the seat, feeling an unexpected wave of relief at the presence of someone willing to guide her through the legal labyrinth. "Rachel Delgado, correct?" James began, scanning his notes. "You're seeking a divorce on grounds of infidelity," she nodded, briefly explaining how she found the lipstick and how Marcus confessed to an affair. Each word felt like a knife, but she forced herself to speak calmly. James listened attentively, occasionally jotting down notes. When she finished, he leaned forward, folding his hands. "I'm sorry you're going through this," he said gently. "Divorce is never easy, and it's even more complicated when you're expecting a child. Our firm has handled numerous high-profile divorce cases, and we'll do our utmost to protect your interests and your child's." He explained the process, filing the initial paperwork, serving Marcus with the divorce petition, and negotiating a potential settlement. Rachel's mind spun as she tried to absorb the details: alimony, property division, child support, custody arrangements once the baby was born. Her voice quavered when she finally spoke. "Marcus is wealthy, resourceful, and well-connected. I'm worried about how he might react once he realizes I'm serious about this." James gave her a reassuring nod. "We've handled clients with high net worth. We'll ensure you're protected physically and financially. And remember, in New York, the court's primary concern is the best interest of the child. That will guide any custody decisions." Rachel exhaled slowly, relief mingling with trepidation. "Thank you," she whispered. "I want to finalize this as quickly as possible." He offered a solemn smile. "I understand, but these things can take time. Marcus may challenge the terms, or he might cooperate if his counsel advises him to. Either way, we'll remain diligent. You won't face this alone." As she left the office, clasping a folder of documents and instructions, Rachel felt a mixture of heartbreak and empowerment. Every step away from her old life felt simultaneously liberating and terrifying. She was giving up the world she once adored, her plush penthouse, fancy galas, and the illusion of a perfect marriage, but she was determined to preserve her self-respect and shield her unborn child from a life steeped in deceit. If Marcus thought he could charm her back into submission, he would soon discover that Rachel Delgado was done playing the role of a complacent wife. Marcus Delgado paced the living room of the penthouse, his footsteps echoing off the marble floors. He'd received a call from a mutual acquaintance hinting that Rachel had been spotted at a high-end law firm. Now, his worst fears solidified as a courier arrived, bearing a thick envelope with the Walters and Green letterhead. He tore it open, his pulse roaring in his ears, petition for divorce. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The meticulously curated space around him, masterpieces on the walls, designer furniture, and a skyline view suddenly felt suffocating. He sank onto the sofa, reading the legal jargon that spelled out the end of his marriage. It mentioned child support, spousal maintenance, and the potential division of assets. Worse still, it pointed to his affair as the catalyst. In desperation, Marcus dialed Rachel's number. It rang several times before going to voicemail. He tried again, only to meet the same result. Frustration boiled over, and he hurled his phone onto the coffee table. In that moment, he realized the magnitude of his actions. His wife, who was carrying his child, was officially leaving him, and the wheels of the legal system were already in motion. Later that evening, he made a call to his own lawyer, a sharp-tongued litigator named Patricia Quinn. Patricia's direct approach had won him various business disputes in the past. However, when he explained his predicament, her normally brusque tone tempered with caution. "Personal matters can get messy," she told him. "Especially with a baby on the way, we'll want to approach this carefully. Courts don't look kindly on infidelity in high-stakes divorces." Marcus rubbed his temples, exhaustion lining his face. He thought back to how everything had spiraled. The affair had started with a flirtation at a business event, followed by secret dinners and stolen moments. It was short-lived, an ego-driven lapse, he told himself, and now it threatened to destroy the life he'd built with Rachel. That night, he couldn't sleep. Memories of Rachel haunted him, her radiant smile at their wedding, the tears of joy in her eyes when she showed him the positive pregnancy test. How could he have jeopardized all that for a fleeting thrill? Each recollection was a stab of guilt, fueling a fierce resolve to right his wrongs. The next morning, he contacted Rachel's closest friend, Grace Caldwell, pleading for her to mediate. Grace, however, offered no sympathy. "You did this, Marcus," she said plainly. "Rachel deserves better than your excuses." Feeling cornered, Marcus decided on a different tactic, meeting Rachel in person, in a place where she might feel safe enough not to turn him away. He recalled her weekly prenatal appointments. If he timed it right, perhaps he could catch her as she left the OB/GYN's office. It was a desperate plan, but it was all he had left. He realized with dawning clarity, if he wanted any chance at redemption, he would need to fight humbly and sincerely for his marriage, even if Rachel had already made up her mind to leave him behind. Rachel's prenatal checkup at Lenox Hill Hospital was supposed to be routine: an ultrasound, vital checks, and a quick conversation with Dr. Lucinda Vogel about her pregnancy progress. She had tried to keep her personal life separate from her medical appointments, but the turmoil in her marriage was beginning to show. She felt on edge, sleeping poorly and weeping at random intervals. Dr. Vogel gently suggested counseling for stress, reminding Rachel that emotional well-being was crucial for her and her baby. Emerging from the building, clutching a folder of ultrasound images, Rachel walked into the crisp morning air. She paused for a moment, gazing at the black and white printout of her baby's profile, feeling both heartbreak and a fierce maternal protectiveness. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through her thoughts. "Rachel!" She looked up to see Marcus standing beside one of the hospital's stone pillars. He appeared haggard, dark circles under his eyes, and an uncharacteristic slump to his usually confident posture. Her pulse spiked with anxiety. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice terse. She instinctively placed a protective hand over her belly. He stepped forward, hands raised, as though to show he meant no harm. "I just wanted to talk. Please." She glanced around, noticing curious onlookers. Mortified by the public scene, she nodded toward a nearby bench, ensuring they remained in open space. Once seated, Rachel fixed him with a wary look. "You can't keep ambushing me, Marcus." He swallowed hard. "I know. I'm sorry. I just had to see how you're doing, how the baby is doing." His gaze dropped to the ultrasound pictures she held. "Is everything okay?" She inhaled sharply, recalling her vow to remain composed. "Our baby is fine. I'm coping. And I'm continuing with the divorce," she added pointedly. Marcus's face twisted with regret. "Rachel, I accept full responsibility for hurting you. I was selfish and stupid. But I'm begging you to give me another chance to at least consider therapy before finalizing anything." Her jaw tightened. "I've heard your apologies, Marcus. They don't erase the betrayal." She struggled to maintain her composure, reminded of how deeply she had once trusted him. "What you did destroyed the foundation of our marriage. Love without trust is worthless." A tear slid down his cheek, and Rachel blinked in surprise. She'd never seen him cry before. "I can't lose you," he whispered. His voice choked. "I can't lose our family. I know I don't deserve another shot, but I'm going to fight for you until the day the ink dries on those divorce papers." Emotion welled in Rachel's chest. Part of her wanted to lash out, to accuse him again of his infidelity. Another part felt an ache of sympathy, recalling the man she once believed in wholeheartedly. She rose from the bench, refusing to let the tears spill. "I'll see you in court," she said quietly. Then, clutching her ultrasound pictures, she turned and walked away. Marcus remained on that bench, shoulders hunched, haunted by the feeling that he had just lost the greatest battle of his life. A week later, Rachel found herself in the middle of a tabloid frenzy. A gossip website had leaked rumors of Marcus Delgado's alleged affair with an unnamed socialite, plenty of hearsay, but enough sensational details to feed the city's rumor mill. Grace Caldwell forwarded her the link, and Rachel's stomach churned at the lurid speculation. She could only imagine how it would escalate once the divorce proceedings became public. That same afternoon, while scrolling through the coverage in a mixture of morbid curiosity and dread, Rachel received an anonymous email. The subject line read, "The truth about Marcus's mistress." Her heart hammered as she opened it, revealing a single line of text. "Ask him about Nina Levine." Attached was a grainy photograph, Marcus entering a dimly lit lounge, his arm around a woman's waist. Though her face was partially obscured, the caption identified her as Nina Levine. The name sent a jolt through Rachel. She recalled a chance meeting months prior, a cocktail party for local philanthropists. Nina Levine was a striking brunette in her late 20s, known for heading a fashion brand, start-up, and frequenting high-profile galas. Rachel had been introduced to her briefly by Marcus, who mentioned she was an investor. Back then, Rachel hadn't suspected a thing, attributing Nina's flirtatious manner to social niceties. Now, the pieces were falling into place with gut-wrenching clarity. Rachel's vision blurred with fresh tears. She considered calling Marcus to demand answers, but that momentary impulse dissolved into bitterness. He'd already admitted to the affair, knowing the woman's identity wouldn't erase the betrayal. Nevertheless, the emotional weight threatened to suffocate her, and she found herself gasping for air. An hour later, Grace arrived, responding to Rachel's frantic text. Sitting together in the penthouse's sunlit breakfast nook, an ironic setting for such a grim discussion, Rachel recounted the details of the email. Grace frowned deeply. "I've heard of Nina Levine. She's well connected, with a reputation for being ruthless in business and in her personal life. If she wants something, she takes it, no matter who gets hurt." Rachel clenched her fists, anger momentarily eclipsing her heartbreak. "Well, she can have Marcus," she said with grim finality. "He made his choice, and I'm done." Grace reached across the table to squeeze her friend's hand. I know this is painful, but you're strong. Don't let their drama pull you under. That evening, Rachel decided she needed some fresh air and a change of scenery. She booked a few nights at the Greenwich Hotel, seeking refuge away from memories that haunted every corner of her home. The suite was warm and welcoming, the staff discreet, offering the solace she craved. She lit a scented candle, hoping to calm her nerves, and let the soft glow of the city lights lull her to sleep. Yet even in the soothing comfort of the hotel, she couldn't escape the tormenting question, had all those tender moments, her wedding vows, the joys of early pregnancy, meant nothing to Marcus? The ghost of Nina Levine loomed large, reminding Rachel of the depth of her husband's betrayal. The following week, James Walters called Rachel in for a meeting, explaining he had updates regarding the divorce proceedings. She arrived at Walters and Green, feeling drained, mentally rehearsing potential settlement scenarios. Upon entering James's office, she noted his grave expression. Marcus's lawyer reached out. James began. They're pushing for a settlement that would minimize the financial damage to Marcus and restrict your claims to certain assets. However, there's something else. He slid a file across the desk. Within its pages were statements suggesting that Rachel had abandoned the marital home without cause, painting her as unstable and emotionally volatile due to her pregnancy. Rachel's stomach twisted in outrage. He's accusing me of leaving him on a whim. James gave a stiff nod. It's an attempt to cast doubt on your capacity to handle stressful situations and, in turn, your capability as a parent. His lawyer might use this to negotiate a more favorable custody arrangement for Marcus after the baby is born. The blood drained from Rachel's face. She felt as if a rug was pulled out from under her. He betrayed me, yet he's claiming I'm the irresponsible one. James leaned forward, a steely resolve in his eyes. Don't worry. We have substantial evidence his affair is documented, plus your testimonies. We'll counter any allegations that you're unfit. Right now, it's crucial you maintain composure. Avoid confrontations, especially in public. Keep a record of everything. Rachel swallowed hard. What about child support and alimony? James exhaled. Marcus is a millionaire. If this goes to court, the judge will likely award you a substantial amount, but he's definitely fighting back, possibly under the advice of Patricia Quinn. My recommendation is that we remain calm, gather more evidence if possible, and be ready for a negotiation that won't be pleasant. It was all so surreal. This was the man she once trusted implicitly, the father of her unborn baby. Now, he was turning the tables, questioning her emotional stability. Fury simmered beneath her calm exterior. She might have been heartbroken, but she wasn't weak. She steeled herself, determination fueling her. I won't let him bully me. After the meeting, Rachel stepped onto the busy midtown sidewalk, feeling the pulse of the city surge around her. She inhaled, letting the crisp air fortify her resolve. Marcus was evidently not going to relent just because she was pregnant or heartbroken. His legal team might have insisted on a scorched earth approach, but she was prepared to fight for her rights and for her child's future. That evening, she retreated to her hotel suite, ignoring calls from unknown numbers. She focused on self-care, a warm bath, soft music, and journaling her thoughts. Each entry was a testament to her determination, a reminder that she had the fortitude to walk away from a toxic marriage, no matter how painful. If Marcus wanted to wage war, she would stand her ground, unwavering in her pursuit of justice for herself and her unborn baby. During a late-night reflection in her hotel suite, Rachel wrestled with conflicting emotions. Her heart still ached, remembering the gentle moments she and Marcus had shared. They once talked dreamily about raising children with unwavering love and stability values, now compromised by his betrayal. Yet, In her more pensive moments, she wondered whether fighting tooth and nail in court was the healthiest choice for her unborn child. She received a text from Grace, urging her to prioritize her well-being. "Let your lawyer handle the war. Your job is to stay strong for the baby," it read. Rachel knew her friend was right. The stress was affecting her appetite, her sleep, and even her blood pressure readings at recent OB-GYN checkups. Dr. Vogel had emphasized the need for calm, warning that chronic stress could lead to premature labor. One morning, while sipping a cup of herbal tea, Rachel felt a flutter in her belly, a new sensation stronger than the soft kicks before. She placed a hand on the spot, eyes brimming with tears at the reminder that she was never truly alone. It was a transformative moment, solidifying her resolve. She vowed that no matter how nasty the legal proceedings got, she would protect her child's health above all else. As though on cue, her phone buzzed with an incoming call from Marcus. For a moment, she hesitated, debating whether to send him to voicemail yet again. But something compelled her to answer. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone guarded. "I need to see you," he said, voice trembling. "It's about the baby," her heart caught in her throat. "Why?" There was a pause. "Because I might not deserve to be in your life anymore, but I still want to be a father. I'd like to be involved, at least in the doctor's appointments. Please." A mixture of anger and sorrow coursed through Rachel. "You've got a strange way of showing care, dragging me through legal mud, claiming I abandoned you. How do I know this isn't a tactic to look good in court?" Marcus sighed on the other end. "I can't blame you for doubting me, but this isn't about winning a case, it's about our child. No matter what happens between us, I'm still responsible." She pinched the bridge of her nose, tears pricking at her eyes. Part of her wanted to slam the phone down. Another part recalled the vow she once made to create a loving environment for her child, regardless of her marital status. "I'll think about it," she finally said before hanging up. That evening, Rachel paced the suite, grappling with the decision of whether to allow Marcus into the baby's medical journey. She knew their personal bond was irreparably damaged. But as the father, he had certain rights, and their child might one day ask about that lost time. After hours of restless thought, she made a choice that marked a turning point in her conscience. She would let him attend the next appointment, not as a gesture of forgiveness, but as an acknowledgement of the role he had to play in their child's life. 2 weeks later, Rachel found herself in the waiting room of Dr. Vogel's clinic. The pastel-colored walls, soft instrumental music, and smiling posters of babies did little to quell her anxiety. She clutched her appointment slip in one hand, her knuckles white with tension. Marcus was due to arrive any moment, and she felt torn between dread and a begrudging acceptance. Sure enough, moments before her name was called, she saw him stepping in. Dressed in a dark suit, he scanned the room until his eyes locked onto hers. Nervously he approached, offering a tentative smile. "Rachel," he whispered, a combination of relief and apprehension lacing his voice. She offered a curt nod. "Let's just get through this." The nurse led them into an exam room where Dr. Vogel greeted them. Rachel explained that Marcus was the baby's father, and Dr. Vogel offered a professional smile, instructing Rachel to lie back for an ultrasound. The room fell silent, except for the soft hum of the machine. As the technician spread warm gel on Rachel's belly, Marcus stood by, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles seemed ready to pop. A flicker on the ultrasound screen revealed the baby's form, a tiny profile, arms and legs moving in an aquatic ballet. Rachel felt her breath hitch, overwhelmed by love and wonder. Marcus, too, seemed visibly moved. Dr. Vogel gently described each measurement and the baby's developmental progress, occasionally pointing to the screen where the baby's heartbeat pulsed in a reassuring rhythm. Despite the tension between them, Rachel found solace in seeing Marcus's awestruck expression. His eyes glistened, and he stepped closer, daring to place a cautious hand on Rachel's shoulder. She stiffened momentarily, but chose not to pull away. For the first time in weeks, they shared a moment that was about more than betrayal or legal battles. It was about the innocent life they had created. When the exam ended, Dr. Vogel handed Rachel a set of ultrasound pictures. Marcus stared at them longingly, as if trying to memorize every detail. The spell was broken, however, the moment they stepped back into the hallway. The grim reality of their divorce loomed large, and Rachel's guarded demeanor returned. "I appreciate that you came," Rachel said quietly, tucking the ultrasound photos into her purse. "But don't think this changes anything." Marcus nodded, sadness heavy in his eyes. "I understand. Thank you for letting me be here." He hesitated, then in a near whisper added, "If you need anything financially, emotionally, please let me help. I know you may not want my support, but it's still my responsibility." Rachel wanted to snap that she didn't need his pity, but she reined in her anger. Instead, she merely nodded and turned away, cradling her belly as she walked down the corridor. Marcus lingered, watching her retreat, the chasm between them no less formidable than before. Yet, for that fleeting moment in the ultrasound room, they had been united by a flicker of shared devotion to their unborn child, an ember of hope flickering in the darkness of betrayal. The day of the divorce mediation arrived, fraught with tension so thick that Rachel felt a headache forming the moment she stepped into the sleek corporate offices designated for the negotiation. James Walters greeted her with a reassuring nod, while Patricia Quinn, Marcus's formidable attorney, sat across the table, riffling through her notes. Marcus was already seated beside Patricia, looking as though he'd barely slept for days. A neutral mediator, a middle-aged woman named Helen Cho, began by setting the ground rules. Everyone would have a chance to speak, proposals would be exchanged, and they'd aim for an amicable settlement. Yet the undercurrent of hostility was palpable. Rachel realized she'd been clenching her fists under the table and forced herself to relax her hands. James started by outlining Rachel's requests. A fair share of Marcus's business assets, alimony for a defined period, child support once the baby was born, and sole physical custody with visitation rights for Marcus. He emphasized that Rachel's well-being during pregnancy and postpartum was paramount, and that Marcus's affair had irreparably damaged the marriage. Patricia countered by acknowledging the affair, but downplaying its significance. "My client recognizes his mistake, but we dispute the demand for sole physical custody. Marcus Delgado is a responsible, successful individual who has every right to be significantly involved in his child's life." She hinted that they were prepared to go to trial if necessary. Marcus's eyes flickered with regret when Patricia mentioned the affair. He stole a glance at Rachel, who stared resolutely forward. After hours of back and forth, debates over financial disclosures, and a litany of compromises, the mediator called for a break. Everyone left the conference room in tense silence. Rachel found a quiet corner near a window overlooking Midtown's bustle. She sipped water, trying to stave off a mounting headache. Marcus unexpectedly approached, looking troubled. "I'm not trying to punish you by fighting for custody," he said softly. "I just want the chance to be a father." Her heart twisted. Despite her anger, she couldn't deny that her child deserved both parents, provided Marcus could be a positive influence. But the wound of betrayal remained raw. "This isn't just about you, Marcus. It's about what's best for our baby," she said, her voice tight. "You claim you're ready for fatherhood, yet you also shattered our family's trust." He swallowed hard. "I can't change the past, but I can do better in the future." Before she could respond, Patricia signaled him to return for the next session. With a resigned sigh, Rachel headed back to the conference room, James by her side. Another wave of negotiations ensued. By day's end, they hammered out a tentative agreement. Rachel would receive a substantial financial settlement, spousal support for a set time frame, and child support once the baby was born. In return, Marcus was granted joint legal custody, ensuring he had a voice in important decisions for the child, while Rachel maintained primary physical custody. As the mediator summarized the agreement, Rachel felt a swell of relief. It wasn't a perfect resolution, no arrangement could mend the heartbreak, but it was a roadmap to the future. She allowed herself a small sigh, aware that the hardest part still lay ahead, truly moving on. In the weeks following the mediation, Rachel Delgado entered a new phase of life, one that felt both frightening and liberating. She continued to stay at the Greenwich Hotel while scouring listings for a suitable apartment. The penthouse, laden with memories and half-truths, was no longer an option. She wanted a fresh start, a sanctuary where she could welcome her baby without the shadow of betrayal looming over every doorway. Marcus, for his part, moved forward with fulfilling the terms of their tentative settlement. He arranged for monthly support payments and even offered to foot the bill for a more comfortable place if she needed it. Rachel declined, preferring to stand on her own feet. Yet, in quieter moments, she recognized that joint legal custody meant they would always be connected through their child, no matter how final the divorce might feel. During her next prenatal checkup, she arrived alone, though Dr. Vogel inquired if Marcus would be attending. Rachel answered with a gentle shake of her head. The last time he came, she allowed it because it felt right for that moment. Now, she needed space. When she heard the baby's heartbeat, a steady, reassuring thump, she felt newly energized, ready to embrace the future as a single mother. That evening, James Walters called to confirm that the divorce paperwork was progressing. The final decree might be signed off within a few weeks, he said. Unless something unexpected arises, we're on track. A sense of closure washed over Rachel when she hung up. She was well aware that heartbreak doesn't vanish with a judge's signature, but it was a step toward healing. She spent hours poring over nursery designs, picking soft pastels and selecting a crib with matching bedding. Each tiny decision felt significant, a pledge to her baby that they would create a warm, loving home, even if it lacked the presence of a traditional family unit. Meanwhile, Marcus poured himself into philanthropic endeavors at least, so said the social columns. He started a charity initiative aimed at providing housing for single mothers, a move that drew public praise. Rachel, seeing the headlines, remained cynical. Was it a genuine gesture of remorse or simply a tactic to repair his image? In truth, it didn't matter. She'd already chosen her path. As the final papers neared completion, Marcus asked if they could meet for coffee. No lawyers, no mediators. Reluctantly, Rachel agreed, hoping the brief exchange might lay the groundwork for a respectful co-parenting relationship. They met at a discreet cafe near Central Park. The conversation was polite, laden with the tension of unspoken apologies and unhealed wounds. Marcus expressed admiration for her resolve, reiterated his commitment to being a good father. Rachel nodded, her hand resting on her growing belly. They parted with the knowledge that their lives would forever entwine around the child they had created, but that the marriage they once cherished was nearing its final end. Days later, the divorce decree arrived, delivered to Rachel's new address in a simple manila envelope. She held the document with trembling hands, reading each line. Then, breathing deeply, she signed where needed, tears slipping down her cheeks. It was done. The next morning, Rachel awoke in a sunlit apartment, a new beginning. Despite the heartbreak, she felt surprisingly calm, as though the storm had finally passed and she was standing on firmer ground. She had endured betrayal, confronted it head-on, and emerged stronger. Now her focus shifted to the hopeful future awaiting her and her unborn child, and for the first time in many weeks, she smiled. Rachel's journey proved that even the most glittering marriage can be undone by a single betrayal, and that true strength surfaces in life's darkest moments. From the wrenching discovery of lipstick on Marcus's shirt to the final signing of divorce papers, she embraced every challenge with courage, driven by an unwavering desire to protect her unborn baby. In the end, she carved out a new life that prioritized honesty, self-respect, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Thank you for watching and experiencing Rachel's emotional roller coaster with us. If her story of heartache and resilience moved you, please remember to like this video and share it with friends who appreciate real-life drama. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales that shine a light on love, betrayal, and redemption. Your support keeps us creating meaningful content, so stay tuned for the next story that might just inspire your own personal transformation.